Have you ever wondered how each of the characters ended up in the digital circus? When they arrived, or even the timeline of their abstraction? Well friends, all of this has an explanation and a story behind it. Let's begin. In 1999, the company CNA was developing its most ambitious project, a creative artificial intelligence capable of generating worlds on its own. The main people involved in this project were Grant, better known as Kinger, and also Scratch. Scratch's ideas were already influenced by an unstable mind. That same year, 1999, the first test subjects entered the system. Kinger, Queenie, Scratch, Spike, Ratty, Bisco, and Wormo. It's not entirely clear if they were all the first programmers of the digital circus. But one thing became very clear. Their arrival was not planned. In fact, we can see Scratch clearly upset with Kane for what he did. Despite being the first generation of characters in the Amazing Digital Circus, surprisingly, it took a whole year before seeing the first abstraction in history, which was Scratch himself, the same one who gave the ideas for the creation of Kane. This happened in the year 2000. They possibly didn't even know that abstraction was possible inside the circus, which definitely influenced the fact that 1 year later, the next abstraction occurred. In 2001, Bisco becomes abstracted, a small jester clown with a polka dot suit. 2 years later, in 2003, Spike, the purple dinosaur, abstracts, and the same happens with Ratty in 2005 and Wormo in 2006. And finally, in 2007, one of the most important characters of this first generation becomes abstracted: Queenie. She was Kinger's beloved wife. The saddest part is that Kinger promised her that as long as they were together, he would never let anything happen to her.
No matter what happens, I'll always...
And into the cellar you go!
But later, he himself watches as Kane took her into the basement, leaving Kinger completely alone. What's surprising is that he didn't abstract, even though he remained alone for 2 full years. We don't know if during that time he was going on adventures with Kane, or what exactly he was doing. But his loneliness ended in 2009 with the arrival of Ragatha. And Ragatha's arrival makes us realize that there were still people inside the CNA facilities. Because when she appears in the circus, she says, "Guys, can you hear me? How do I take this off?" It's unknown whether the guys she was talking to were the next characters who would arrive, or researchers trying to continue the digital circus project. Because in that same year, we also had the arrival of Cosmo and the Pink Cyclops, who would form the second generation of characters in the digital circus. In 2010, the Pink Cyclops becomes abstracted for unknown reasons. In fact, we barely have any information about this character. What's crazy is that in that same year, the character with the orange bow arrives, who only lasted 1 year in the circus, since its abstraction happened in 2011. And in that same year, we also get the arrival of Ribbit, a girl who would later become very important in the story. In 2012, 2 more characters joined the circus, the Rabbit Clown and a Blue Oyster. Very mysterious characters about whom we also don't have much information. But the Rabbit Clown practically doesn't last at all. He becomes abstracted probably just days after arriving. The Blue Oyster manages to last a bit longer. And then in 2013, we have the arrival of Jax, who forms a close relationship with Ribbit and Cosmo. But even that isn't enough to stop the inevitable.
By 2014, the Blue Oyster becomes abstracted.
But at the same time, Gangle arrives, who seems to be one of the most emotionally unstable from the moment she enters. But in 2016, a tragedy would change 2 characters forever. Ribbit becomes abstracted, and this completely changes the group dynamic, because Ribbit was one of the few who had managed to stay stable, along with Jax and Cosmo. So when Ribbit falls, Jax breaks. He becomes much more distant, apathetic, and cold with everyone. And while Jax is trying to endure this tragedy, for that same year, Zubul arrives, becoming part of the last survivors of the circus. And it wasn't until 2017 that our protagonist arrives, Pomni. Her arrival marks the most critical point in the entire story, because Pomni enters when the circus is already at its worst moment. Because the worst part is that on that same day Pomni arrives, Kaufmo becomes abstracted, so Jax is left completely defenseless without his support group. And with this, the collapse of the digital circus begins. But now, who will be the next to become abstracted? Maybe in the story we won't actually see anyone else becoming abstracted, but there are high chances that some characters won't be able to take it anymore and end up transforming, entering abstraction mode. The one we believe is most likely to become abstracted, of course, is Jax. He's already had several moments where he was on the edge of abstraction. Moments where they even showed us what the characters see when they're starting to become abstracted. On top of that, he's the one who has distanced himself the most from the group, and he's shown some very strange behavior, especially in episode 8 after they had that conversation with Kinger. By the way, we have a video explaining how Jax connects to the character Ted from the story that inspired the Amazing Digital Circus. We'll leave it here in case you want to check it out. The next possible abstraction is Kinger. He's the one who has been in the digital circus the longest, and the fact that he has survived until now is honestly surprising. But over time, he has been losing his mind more and more. They've even shown that he dreams about his wife Queenie, the one he misses the most. On top of that, after failing to stop Kane, he might develop a certain kind of worry that pushes him to the edge of abstraction. The next one who could become abstracted is Gangle. She's one of the most emotionally unstable characters, and at any moment her thoughts could take over, and combined with her emotions, that could push her straight into the edge of abstraction. Ragatha could also become abstracted, because she's one of the ones who has been in the circus for a long time. She has tried to be like a mother to everyone. It even feels like she wants to save them. But to the others, she's just seen as a simple rag doll. The moment she realizes this and truly accepts it, she might lose all purpose in her existence, which could likely lead to her abstraction. Zubul could become abstracted as well, because Kane forced her to relieve her trauma in the worst possible way. That'll definitely leave a mark on her, and could push her into abstraction. And the last one who could become abstracted is Pomni. Since she's the newest one in the digital circus, she still doesn't seem as broken as the other characters. It looks like she's been gaining strength with each of the adventures Kane puts them through. But if she discovers something about the circus that she can't simply handle, she could reach that point of anxiety where we finally see her becoming abstracted. Well, what do you think about this entire timeline of how each of the characters arrived in the digital circus and how they became abstracted? Is there any other characters we didn't include? We'll be reading you in the comments.